that Hasan Pike sticking his neck out there for AOC, saying, "Hey guys, I know you're throwing a lot of mud her way. I know Ross Barkin and the New York Magazine were saying that she completely missed the moment and that she should have endorsed Zohran sooner, and that it was a tremendous blow to the campaign that she didn't do it." Hasan comes out here, defends AOC, and provides a little bit of an alternative perspective. So we're going to react to that, and we're also going to watch Mehdi Hasan absolutely clobbering one of these abundance liberals live to their face. So just a little bit of some bonus guarding over here, a little bit of light Casa del Vanguard action, talk a little bit of chat, talk a little bit of smack, if you will. It's just going to be me here, Zach. See what I did there. But without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about this, because I thought it was a really interesting take from Hasan, somebody who is very familiar and potentially has even spoken to AOC herself about this. So let me go ahead and rearrange where I'm seated so I don't cover up Hasan when he pops back on. But let's listen to this and get going.
They've kept going to AOC for an endorsement. She's kept telling them to come to her with a coordinated strategy between them for how to beat him. Some in frustration have told her she doesn't get how politics works. What? I don't believe this. It's from Edward Isaac Dover. I don't believe this. I think people are just basically making up stories about AOC's non-endorsement up until this moment. I suspect that in the upcoming days, you'll probably hear AOC endorsement of Zohran. I don't think it's copium. I think that the reason for why, look, we can disagree on whether,
and this is really interesting, guys. Pay attention to why he thinks she's resisted endorsing him. Bernie Sanders also hasn't endorsed him, right? But we've seen people like AOC's brother put stuff about Zohran on his Instagram. He has surged overnight. And I think this is a really interesting theory from Hasan as to why she has waited so long to give him her endorsement.
Or not. We can disagree on whether or not it was smart of her to hold off until this very moment for maximum impact, or rather, if it was actually presented ahead of time, what kind of help that would have given Zohran. But I think AOC understands New York politics and the importance of being a lesser known entity while being able to freely do your ground game and establish a base of loyalty. I still think that there is a tactical decision here on national politics, and especially when it comes to foreign policy. I have many disagreements with AOC. I have many disagreements with AOC on foreign policy, the way she communicates. But on this issue, when it comes to being an underdog progressive candidate, I think AOC knows the Democratic establishment and
Yeah, let's unpack that, right? Because whoever edited this kind of butchered Hasan's point a little bit, but this is the only live stream clip I could find of him talking about this specific moment. And the reality is AOC does know what it's like to be an insurgent candidate in New York City, right? She didn't run for mayor, but she ran to unseat Joe Crowley, who at that time was a blue dog Democrat that was completely safe. He was not worried about any kind of threat from a challenger like AOC. He completely brushed her off. He barely did any campaigning. He treated her like she was nothing, like she was no threat to him. And what happened? It bit him in the ass, right? That was how AOC was born as a political figure in this country, right? We watched the Knock Down the House documentary, right? That followed her and a couple of other candidates like Cori Bush, even though she lost that race that it originally covered for her. And it was a big launch pad for AOC, right? So I do think that Hasan is onto something when he talks about how, hey, AOC wasn't just blowing this off, right? She didn't take one look at the New York City mayoral race and say, oh yeah, I'm just fucking sticking my nose up and endorsing it. Like, oh, I'm just waiting until I can just cop out and say, oh, may the best Democrat win, right? That's not what she's doing here. She understands that a lot of what Zohran's power is in his movement that he's building, right? Zohran is the real deal Holyfield, okay? I talked to Zohran personally way before we ever knew that Zohran had mayoral ambitions, right? This is kind of a cool thing. He's such a nice guy. He's such a real dude that when he was running to be a New York assemblyman, he was like the 15th person that ever came on the Vanguard podcast. We hit him up because he'd done a YouTube video as MC Cardamom, and he was a rapper that was running as a socialist for New York Assembly seat with the DSA banner. We interviewed him and this other guy, Jabari Brisport, in 2 separate interviews, but they were kind of like, we're going to Albany together to bring socialism. They were very popular. They're very good guys, right? Then Zohran went on to lead a hunger strike. A hunger strike, guys. His first hunger strike, it was a massive weeks-long hunger strike, okay, for debt relief for New York City taxi medallion workers. It used to be that if you wanted to drive a taxi, right, before the days of Uber in New York City, you would get what is called the New York taxi medallion, right? And it was sold to people who were largely immigrants, right, but working class people who needed to make a living. Like, hey, if you need a job that's always going to be there, be a New York City cab driver. Long hours, hard hours, but you will be able to always have work. You'll always be getting shifts. There's always going to be the opportunity for you to go out there and get some income night after night after night after night. It's hard work, long work, but it'll be there. And so a lot of immigrants said, okay, I'm willing to do that. I'll take out this mammoth loan that they were charging to be able to have a New York City taxi medallion to be able to go out there and run a New York cab. Well, what happened, guys? What happened? Uber happened. Lyft happened. All of these, I'm going to cut corners and not be regulated industries, startups, apps came, right? And it fucked over these hardworking immigrants who were straddled with all kinds of debt. They were straddled with all kinds of enormous debt, guys, debt that they were never going to be able to repay. And it was no longer valuable, right? It was no longer valuable because there was so much competition from Uber and Lyft. Zohran had to starve himself for weeks, guys. No food, only water, right? In an effort to appeal to the New York City government, right? It might have been the state government, but I believe it was the New York City government, and say, hey, we have to provide debt relief to these workers. And he was successful, right? And he said, you know what? I'm going to use this tactic again in the aftermath of October 7th, right? He did another hunger strike. I believe this one was a shorter duration of a hunger strike, but still, again, this guy's putting his money where his mouth is, right? He's living the walk. He's walking the walk. He is who he says he is, right? He's doing all of these things now. He's on the path to become mayor. Do you really think this guy hasn't been on AOC's radar? I think one thing the left has to do better is we've got to stop just immediately seeing the worst in all of our candidates. Just stop immediately assuming the worst from all of the people who politically represent us. I know they disappoint us a lot. As Hasan said, he has disagreements with AOC. I've had disagreements with AOC. I've been like, God damn it, I wish you would have taken a harsher tone here. But I don't think we can throw the baby out with the bathwater, guys. I genuinely believe that this is her strategy, that she wants Zohran to be able to fly under the rug, that she doesn't want to bring all of the national hysteria, that she doesn't want to bring all the Fox News minutes to forcing people to slander and smear Zohran Mamdani. Right now, she can let him build his own base. He can establish himself as his own politician, right? Not somebody who was made by Bernie Sanders, not somebody who was made by AOC, not somebody that they donned their guide. No, somebody who said, I'm going to live, walk, and breathe this community. I'm going to establish myself as somebody who cares for all New Yorkers, working class New Yorkers, immigrant New Yorkers, somebody who believes that's integral to the experience of New York City and wants to make it so it's affordable forever for working class people to live there, right? He's going to rise through his own ranks. She's giving him the opportunity to spread his own wings and fly. Bernie Sanders doing the same thing, right? And it's a similar tactic that she employed when Cori Bush ran in 2020, right? AOC did not come out very early. I think it was the final moments of that race after Cori Bush had already once again gotten the Democratic primary win in St. Louis that she gave her the nomination, not wanting to bring negative press to these insurgent candidates to allow them to kind of, engage in the same kind of political movement building that she did. Now, we could say, hey, that's a good idea, but in practice, it would have been better if you've gotten out on the streets every single day and raised a ruckus for Zohran. I would tend to agree with that, but I think we have to be fair to AOC and say this was what her plan has been all along.
The hurdles they will present against someone like Zohran if he were to become a known entity too soon, like too far out from the actual election date, actual primary date, and also simultaneously maximum impact. She did this last time around as well. She waited until around this time for maximum impact for her endorsement, and I think that she will endorse Zohran. That's what I think. Maybe I'm wrong. I think in the next couple of days she will probably come out and endorse Zohran Mamdani. The UA.
And here's my only addition to that, my only supplemental take that I'll add, is that I think it's likely to come right after the mayoral debates. So if I'm not mistaken, guys, in chat, correct me if I'm wrong, not only will Zohran be on the stage, like 8 other fucking people will be on the stage, one of whom will be Andrew Cuomo. And all eyes will be on Andrew Cuomo. Don't kid yourself, right? National media will be falling all over themselves to be having a take about Andrew Cuomo. Why? Because he hasn't been anywhere to be found so far. right? Nobody's been able to make a value judgment of him as a politician since he's returned because he's been hiding, right? He was determined to win this race the way Joe Biden won the 2020 Democratic primary, by hiding, right? By not being caught with his pants down, right? That is not going to work now that Zohran has caught up to him, right? Now that polls are showing him within single digit striking range of Andrew Cuomo. Okay. And that's not counting any kind of, unlikely voters that he's motivated, that he's catalyzed.
Look out the door if you hear an ambulance. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there. Be there. The